Welcome to the Siwike podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The Siwike podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Siwike Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our new guest hosts, Demetrios. Demetrios, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Luki. How are you?
I'm phenomenal as always. So Demetrios comes to us with a background in a whole bunch of different things where, he's looking for roles in construction project management, but he's also an aspiring YouTuber, photographer, and has his own Etsy shop and a whole bunch of other things. But we'll get into that a little bit. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what you're doing these days?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on my YouTube channel. That's the one I'm trying to focus on, get it to 1,000 subscribers to monetize. I've been working on this for a couple of years. And on the side, I do some video editing for Luki, if anything. I do some of his new YouTube videos and his shorts and his reels. And on top of that, I've been job hunting on the side. So I've been putting this all together and just waiting now to accept an offer. So that's what I've been doing currently.
That's amazing. And yes, so Demetrios does help with the YouTube shorts. So if you enjoy those, then obviously you want to listen more to this discussion. But I'd love if we kind of go back in time and talk a little bit about what was Demetrios like as a kid. So what was kind of an early fond memory that you had growing up?
Oh, how far back are we going? Are we going back to primary school or are we going to secondary school?
As early as you want to go, yeah.
Okay, so as a kid, this one is I was very shy as a kid. So I wouldn't, even when it came to girls or just going out, I just didn't want to do anything. I was kind of like a little bit of a hermit crab. And okay. I only started coming out. Lack of confidence was another one. So I didn't really have much confidence. And then only probably until I went to university where I started to gain a little bit more confidence and meeting new people. So one of the main things was I needed to get out of the house, away from my parents, and just live on my own for a bit, just to have that experience. And it's a good thing I did because you learn a lot of responsibility. When you don't have your mum and dad around to give you money, cook, clean, and do all this, I was pretty independent anyway, so that wasn't so much of a problem, but you learn a lot, just little things.
Cool. And could share a little bit more about some of the influences growing up. So were there brothers and sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles? Obviously, parents were involved, but what were some of the influences going from that shy kid, then gaining a little bit more confidence and being independent out into the real world? What were some of the influences along the way?
Oh, I don't know. Obviously, my parents were both working, and I did work with my father a little bit in tax. I did study tax, and this was after the 2008 recession. So that gave me a little bit more confidence and just understanding the world a lot more, and just how much the government gets you, let's put it that way, put it politely. And my mum was working at Harrods in a makeup department. So that wasn't really like my thing, obviously. But to progress to that stage, like really independence, and to get to that high level, working in Harrods wasn't easy. As for for me, the confidence factor really came from just wanting to escape. So I've never really been a fan of living in England or London. It just wasn't for me. I've always found this place very frustrating. And when I found out an opportunity to leave England and then come to Canada, because originally I was looking at Australia, but the permits to be able to apply for that working holiday visa didn't come. So Canada's came first, and it was harder to get into. So I got in and just literally going at it on my own. I literally left England. I knew no one in Canada. Everyone keeps asking me as well when I was living in Canada, so you have any family here, any friends? Knew no one. So I was literally just on my own. And I put myself in a situation where if I don't talk to anyone, if I don't go out to get it, nothing's going to happen. So I put myself into that situation. Cool. And it actually benefited me for the better.
Nice. And can you walk us through a little bit about that process? So you started as a shy kid, lacking confidence, and working with your dad a little bit on the tax accounting, but you're ultimately kind of project management and, well, a whole bunch of other creative endeavors.
Yeah.
Now. But what was the path to get from like high school to university, and maybe any of the kind of unlock points that helped you maybe gain some of that confidence along the way. So can you walk us through that process?
Uh, a lot. I think with the internet, we have a lot more. We have it a lot easier now to access information very quickly. So just reading on the internet about what to do next, not just taking the first article. Obviously, you look at one article and you're like, I need to double check this. So you keep checking other websites. So it's just diving into research and keep looking at it. So that for me,
What
it
was
was
a
just
specific area that you were researching?
pretty much anything. I was very techie. I was very techie. So like, okay, how do I transfer files from a computer to a hard drive quickly and efficiently? I always had problems because I was with Windows, and I just wanted things to work, and it wasn't like Apple where things just work easier. So a lot of it, because it was window based, was how to push things together, how to make things work. I've always had that fascination of how make things work, basically.
Okay. So that kind of led you to your like studying and degrees. Like, did you do any studying in the UK in London, or was it all just in Canada?
Yeah. So I keep forgetting the question. Because of the way the schools were here in England, and obviously I knew what I wanted to be when I was younger, but everyone was saying, oh, you had to go and get a degree. It's good for you. Everyone has a degree. You're going to get a job. That's what everyone said.
Right.
And I'm guessing most kids will relate to that, having a traditional family, let's say. And I was like, okay, fine, let's just go to university. And obviously I didn't know what to do. So I just picked computer science, thinking that, oh, it's computers, it'll be fine. So that's how I chose it. I didn't choose it because I wanted it. I chose it because of traditional family mentality, basically, in that we were going to get a degree. Anyway, I failed my first year. I retook the exams and I passed, and I got into the second year and failed again. It's just no interest. Like me, C++ and Java, didn't understand. Just nothing was there. I don't understand how I passed in the first year. So I left, and I ended up getting a job in computer support. Basically, it was for a computer engineering company. It was all right, and I'm glad I did it. But then it was just so boring that it just wasn't what I expected. So I ended up leaving to go to Cyprus. And then after that, when I came back, did I go? What year was this now? 2008. So yeah, this is when the crash happened. So obviously no one was really hiring at that time. So it made even if I had passed university, it would have been the year everyone graduated and no one was hiring. So I'm kind of glad I got the job because I got the leg up. But it still is because I was finding things that weren't for me. It made it challenging afterwards because everyone who had left university now has a degree, but no one was hiring. So the market's just saturated with people. And what do you do now?
Right. Yeah, and I'd love you if you walk us through the part where you're in the job and it's kind of boring. How do you make the decision? Because a lot of folks will be stuck in that situation where like, well, this is kind of what my life is, and I'll just continue doing it for the rest of my life. What was kind of the breaking point for you to decide to do something different?
Do you know, I think the problem with a lot of young people at the time is because they don't have the experience that you get by the time you're 30 and you're thinking, oh, I wish I changed this. And if I was to give advice now to someone young looking for this, don't pick it for the sake of money. Make sure you're going to enjoy it. If anything, my advice would be do get some form of work that will give you some money and just save it up and then go traveling. Go traveling and explore the world, what it has to offer while you have that opportunity, while you're young. Obviously, don't go crazy by going to expensive hotels. Do it on a budget. Even if you had a part-time job, you're not going to earn a lot of money. But that's what I would do. And then once you figured out what you want to do, then go into it. Unless, of course, you already know it, then go for it. But that's what I would have preferred to have done.
Okay. And you mentioned that you already had a sense of what you wanted to do beforehand, but you just picked computer science because you had to get a degree. So what was that thing that you wanted to do, and like how did you start wrapping those plans around what was traditionally required of you?
Yeah, so ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a pilot. That was I had a fascination with planes. It was just that feeling of flying. I just loved being in an airplane. Every time I went on holiday, it was just fascinating. And then obviously when the decision came to like why go to university, I want to go to flying school. This is what I want to do. And it's like, no, get a degree. It's better for you. You can do it afterwards. Well, it didn't really materialize. So I still wanted to do it. I still have that desire to do it. It just is not going to be on a commercial basis, basically.
Right. Cool. So tell me more about how you started incubating that and started moving into that narrative, because obviously you did computer science, you found this boring job. Was the thought of becoming a pilot still there at the time, or did it morph into something else to get you to where you are now?
Obviously, it did surface up again. I think the 2008 crash affected everything, because every industry was affected. So even if I became a pilot, no one was hiring. It was just so difficult at that time. And it obviously took a very long time for the whole world to actually recover. I know they say they recovered after a year or two, but I don't believe that one bit. So I think after that, because I worked for one of my dad's clients for a bit as a online. He was a bathroom online retailer, and I was just like a web administrator, just managing the website, putting the products online, doing the copy. I'm a jack of all trades, basically, doing the hardware. I would help with shipping out products whenever they needed to be, if they were down. So I was all over the place. And eventually they were moving offices, and it was going to be a little too far for me to travel to work, and it just wasn't feasible with the salary I was on. So I left, and I was out a job for a month, and then I found a job in Camden, but it wasn't permanent, it was temporary. And again, it was a jack of all trades job, just helping out in the office. It was for a design studio. So helping move furniture, helping put products online, very, very simple stuff, nothing too crazy. And there was a good, probably 10, 15 people, temporary workers working there. And it was a paid position.
Okay.
Obviously wasn't amazing, but it was a start. I thought if I work hard enough, maybe they will accept me. And then guess what happened? 3 months later, no one was there except for me. And then legally in England, if you're there for 3 months, they have to give you a contract to let you go. They can't carry it on. They gave me a contract, and I ended up becoming a junior designer. So just helping in the design studio. I thought that was a lot of fun. Camden was an amazing place to work at. So I really loved working in Camden. I actually really liked that period in time. That was 2010. This is when this happened. And I was there for 6 months. And then after that, it was just bad luck again. I've always had bad luck in jobs. So the company went into liquidation, and then we went on what they call is gardening leave, where you're paid, but you don't have to turn up to work, which sounds amazing to some people, but it was very frustrating. And I just remember that day going home where I know I didn't do anything wrong, but just everything was going wrong that day. Got on the train. The train had to stop several stops earlier, so I had to go and get the bus. Then the bus broke down. Then I started walking home. Then it started raining. So just the worst luck you could ever imagine on that day. I was like, this is not great right now. So that was that bit.
And then how did things start turning over? So obviously that bad day didn't continue on, and so you went into
Yes.
I guess that gardening leave. That sounds interesting.
So I think,
how did you turn that around into something more interesting?
yeah. So this is probably 2010. So this was the end of 2010, and then I went to my dad's office to help him out with tax returns. Obviously, I wasn't qualified, but just basic Excel stuff, summarizing income and expenses. I had the tax team there just guided me. And then I was there to help with the computer stuff. So if anyone had a computer problem, I would go and solve it because I was pretty adept at that time. I knew what I was, all that, remember when I was telling you all that research I was doing at university, how things work? That's where this came in handy now. And the tax team was saying, look, we're looking for a junior. Becoming a tax assistant was basically recession proof because everyone's going to need one. So that we was talking, and tax is that love-hate thing because you hate tax, but it's very fascinating. So that's where the divide is with tax with me. And it's, at the end of the day, it's business, and I learned a lot from it. It put a lot of sense in my head and said, okay, I need to be aware of this. Why weren't we taught this at school? Which is what probably a lot of people would be saying right now. So I decided, do you know what? Let's just go for it. I've got nothing to lose. Everything was making sense at the time. It was a job. It was money. And the one thing, I worked probably a lot harder than what people were thinking because I didn't want to make it seem that I got the job because it was my father's firm, because he was one of the partners there. So I don't want to make it seem that way. So even though I worked hard, I probably worked even harder just so I wouldn't give that impression. And then no one even had that impression because they knew that I was doing tax. I was studying to do my exams at the same time. So I was carving my own path. And that's where I spent, 3 years? I passed my first set of tax exams. And then once I had passed, then I was like, I need to move on. I need to elevate and get paid more. And obviously there's only so much you can do. So I ended up moving to a firm actually even closer to where I was working, but this was very close to me. And it was in the entertainment and film industry. And the pay was bigger, and it was the next step basically in tax. So I ended up working for another company, and then I was there for 2 years. And then after doing tax for 5 years, it was that love-hate thing. December and January is the worst time as well in England for tax, because that's when the tax returns are due. So you're working like every single day, including weekends. And it may not seem a lot for 1 or 2 months of the year, but it's very intense. And that's why I was like, this tax is not for me. It's like, I can't see myself. What am I going to do in my 30 or 40? Like, yeah, it's a good job, but I hate it. I can't be doing this. It's stressing me out. So that's when I started looking to escape England. Like, oh, there's opportunities to work abroad. I've never traveled before. Let's go for it.
Okay. Yeah, and walk us through that process. So was it a just go online and say, hey, where can I move to? Where should I go to? And the work permit visa process was easy, or like?
It was literally like I typed in working holiday visa or travel and work. That's what my two keywords, travel and work. That's what I was looking at. And then slowly, these companies came up where they offered assistance in following you down the road of the process of getting the application and the visa, the working holiday visa. For you, it's usually for the Commonwealth countries, Australia, New Zealand, Canada.
Sure.
USA would be in there too, but their system's a little bit different. So it was just doing a lot of research, which company offered the best value for money, what services they offered. And I think it was Bunak, the company that I looked at, and that's the one I went with. And it was, you pay the money, they help you walk you through the visa process of getting the working holiday for Canada. And then it was, once I had that secured, then the next step was, okay, where do you want to go to, Vancouver or Toronto? And then we had, at the time when I did have Facebook, we had Facebook groups, and everyone was saying, oh, I'm going to Vancouver. Literally everyone. I'm like, why does everyone want to go there? So I was like, I want to be different. I don't want to follow where everyone else is going. So I said, all right, I'm going to go to Toronto. That's where I'm going to head to. Plus, it was the fact that Vancouver was very rainy, and I already live in a rainy city, so I don't really want the same again. So I went to Toronto, and then part of that package that we had was a stopover in Iceland. So as we leave England, we stop over in Iceland for a couple of days, which was cool to experience the Blue Lagoon and we tried to see the lights in the sky, but they didn't appear that day. and then ended up in Canada, and everything was just looking up like this, like typical tourist. Ended up in Canada, and a lot of people had jobs ready and lined up at ski resorts. It's normally the first thing people do when they arrive in Canada, but this was around December now when I arrived, November, December. I said to myself I wanted to find my own job, but because we had such a great bunch of people with us, I was like, you know what, I'm going to come with you guys. So I applied for Blue Mountain Resort in Canada, and they gave me the front desk position and accommodations. I was like, great. I know it's not going to be the same money as is in tax. I knew that very well, but I had saved up a lot of money. Right. And I said to myself, okay, this is a step back, but I want to just enjoy my time for a bit, enjoy the Canadian experience and learn to ski and just meet new people, just have that complete new experience.
Sounds good. Sounds like a quite a different journey from like computers to accounting. Now you're at the front desk.
I've been around the block
at a ski resort and been around on different things. So what was the journey there to kind of get to where you are now? So obviously you're not working at a ski resort right now, and you picked up a few interesting hobbies along the way.
So after the Blue Mountain stint finished, I obviously headed back to Toronto, which was only around a couple hours away. And I had a passion for cars. I've always loved my cars, and I always washed my own car back in England. I bought a car which I was very pleased about with the money I was making in tax, and I was very specific about who washed it. So I had my interest in detailing there. Like, when I say very specific, if I saw a speck of dust, I would have to get rid of it. Tell my parents, don't park the car here, don't park it under the tree. So I ended up getting a job for a luxury auto detailer in downtown Toronto. And I actually took his business and revamped it to... instead of destroying what he already had, I kept the core essential services that he had, but I added more luxury items, like more in-depth detail. So taking the knowledge that I had learned and applied to the car, and offering services like two days of detailing with cars. So instead of charging $150, $200 for a quick wash, we would take these Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces, whatever it may be, and we'll do a more in-depth clean, polishing, giving it a ceramic coating so the water will flow off. So I helped him add those services and build that up, and I really enjoyed that. But again, he didn't see the value in me providing it, which was crazy. I was like, I can't be here being paid the wage like I deserve better. So I decided to leave there, which was upsetting because I really enjoyed that. Again, everything that I've enjoyed, it's just not worked out for me. And it's like, so I left. So I ended up working in hospitality. This was my first stint in hospitality. So I have to work my way from the bottom. So I was just a busboy, busboy, as they say, just clearing up the tables. But the restaurant I was at was very nice. I actually think it's one of the best restaurants in Toronto on Queen Street, the Good Son. I really enjoyed my time there. And then slowly, because I wanted to immigrate to Canada, so I was looking for a more permanent position, something that because with a serving position, you can't immigrate to Canada with. So I was looking, I ended up finding this place called Access Employment. I don't know if you've heard of it, Luki. Yeah. So I applied through there.
Center, yeah.
Yeah, so I applied through the Access Employment, where these different employers come, they pitch the positions and their company basically. And then I found this solar company, which it was a lead associate was the role. And I said, okay, great. The wage was decent, like not amazing, but it was doable. And it wasn't too far. I was in Etobicoke, so from where I was staying, it was probably half an hour, 40 minutes subway. So it's not far at all.
Right.
And I took that role on, and slowly, this was very similar to the design role, where I was building systems in place. Same with the tax role as well. I built systems in place to make my life easier and for other people easier. So when we started onboarding new employees, I basically designed the training manuals. So they take that, and I literally escalated their time from being employed to getting them going within a few days, let alone taking them weeks. So that was really important. And the owner at the time saw that, upgraded me to lead associate. So I was doing more things like quality control, managing the data, making sure efficiency was there, making sure the leads from the solar being picked up for solar were quality leads and not just a lead for the sake of it. So I was just sifting through those, speaking with the tech guy, automating processes to make, if we could do that as well, and things they could be done. And again, came up to my probation, and the way they organized my pay packet was not suitable in any way. And I was like, this is just not working. So we have to revise it because it made it worse, not better for me. So I said to him, look, so I said to him, look, this is what I'm looking for. I want to stay. Everyone there was on my side because they really liked me, but the owner just didn't want to pay the money. So I said, like, you're leaving me with no choice. Like, I know that businesses have a cost, but I need to be able to survive as well on a salary. I'm not asking for a crazy amount.
Right.
So in the end, I decided to leave, and I went back into hospitality. And this is where, I think any young person, if you want to make good money, go and work in hospitality, because you will learn a lot. You build up your confidence super quick as well. So if you're shy, you've got nothing to lose, because if you want money, you have to go speak to people, and it works. Right. Especially if you're in college, it's probably the best thing. I recommend any young person to work in hospitality industry. So I started working with my friend because he was working there. He got me the job. That's how hospitality works. If you know someone, you're going to get in. So you can't just apply it. You can, but it's better when you know someone. And then straight away, the money was way better than working 40 hours a week. You could work 3 days in the equivalent of someone working a 9 to 5 or minimum wage. And you're making enough money to be comfortable. If you work 5 days, you're going to be more than comfortable working hospitality. So I'm networking there, and I'm deciding my next move. At this point, I was kind of frustrated with Canada as well, just the way things were always not working, just like how they were in England. And then my dad said to me, one of the best things he said was, there's problems in the world wherever you go. So it doesn't matter what country you pick, England or Canada, you're always going to have problems. You just have to face them. And that really sat with me. And I was like, do you know what? He's right. Like, I hated England and I left for a reason. I can't be frustrated in Canada and leave again just because things aren't working out. Like, something will eventually happen. You just got to think the next step. So at that time, I had a lot of friends in Canada. Obviously, being English, everyone loves you because of the accent. Very charming. And they were said to me, just work in construction, work in the construction industry. There's always in demand. It's always needed. It's an essential skill in a way. So obviously we were talking about this, and I started looking into it more, doing my research. Again, this is something that was ingrained in me as a kid. Having the internet, you can do your research. I was like, okay, This sounds good. It's like the money's good as well. I wish I knew about it earlier. I can immigrate with it, because if you go to, my visa was running out at the time now because I had a 2-year working holiday visa. So I thought maybe I can apply for an extension, go back to England for a bit until they give me, until they've accepted my application to go to college again. And then I can get onto a study visa, because I was still under 30. You could do it. So I was like, perfect. Let's do this. I was like, I haven't actually got a degree because I left university. I failed. So I've got nothing to my name really. So I was like, okay, perfect. I went back to England for like a few months, enjoyed my time, had like a long break, and then obviously got accepted into George Brown, went through the whole process of doing the visa. And I could do this myself now because it's fairly straightforward. It's just a lot of paperwork.
Right.
went to George Brown for 2 years studying construction renovation technology. That was it. It was a 2-year course originally before I upgraded it to a 3-year. So I decided I want to do the extra course. And obviously during this time, this is when COVID happened. So if we catch up now, we're now at COVID.
Right.
And throughout this time, I was working hospitality to maintain my rent. So 2-3 days a week while studying. I barely had any time to myself because you're at school, you're working, and then plus you have to do all your assignments, which is basically a job in itself. I had no time, but I made it work. Everything was working for me. And I enjoyed going to college, having that Canadian experience. It's kind of what I paid for. My father, I should say, helped me out here. It was probably 4 times the cost of what a Canadian pays as an international student.
Right.
So I think I average is what, $5,000, I think, for a Canadian student to go to college. Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So mine was like 3 to 4 times that, plus your living expenses, plus your rent. So it was hell of expensive. So my father helped me with the tuition, but I was paying my own way with rent and living expenses, etc. Again, COVID hit. Well, no one could work, so that made everything difficult for everyone. And then I was just studying at home. It's just literally rolling out of bed onto the computer and then going back to bed and just studying. That's all that was doing. When it started clearing up, because we went through several waves, I found a job in construction as a carpenter assistant. And I was working there for, let's say, 6 months, from August till about December. And that was really fun. Again, everything that I have been trained at school in construction, I can now apply. And I was like, oh, great. This is a job that I can get into. I got all the tools. I've been building up this for 2-3 years now, building on this house, learning on the job from others. This was perfect. I like this. It's better than being at a desk. And then my last semester, basically before I graduate, he had to let me go because obviously the 3rd wave of COVID was coming again. So he couldn't afford to keep me on. And I was like, it just doesn't stop happening. So again, I got let go and I was just studying again. I was still on CERB was what they were calling it at the time, which was helping me, but it wasn't exactly amazing. And then as I graduated, COVID was they were starting to lift the lid on the barriers, basically. And I ended up finding a job just before CERB ran out in hospitality again. Because again, it was just easy to get into. And I knew a friend of mine who worked there before. So again, it's just like a straight shoe in. So that's where I was working in hospitality for a bit. But all this time under COVID, because I had all this time because I wasn't working, this is where I woke up the most. COVID, and I have to say I'm very thankful for my professors as well, because he knew that we were clued up on that we were going to do the assignments. He didn't have to worry about that, or we knew what we were doing. So in most of our lessons, we were actually talking about life in itself and how that functions and what you should do and how to help yourself, and not just here's the course and lecture. Like, we knew what we were doing. All the slides were there. All of us were all clued up there. So then slowly, I was waking up and like, I can't trust anyone anymore. Look what happened to everyone pretty much during COVID, where no one could find a job. No one was safe, regardless of what position you were in. So it's like, okay, now I need to figure out a way to make money where I'm reliant on myself. I'm responsible for me, to at least have this extra income coming in. So this is where YouTube started coming in, and the fascination of how they make money on the side, how they work, affiliate marketing, brand deals. I knew nothing about photography or videography, nothing. If you watch my first video on my YouTube channel, it's awful. It's just one static shot of me talking. And then slowly, that fascination of research, but now it's in video form, which I prefer. That's just the way I prefer to learn. I started, okay, how to take better photos. And you start learning about cameras. What camera should I buy? And you start learning about the different, because everyone's already done it and they have that experience of what cameras to buy for the money on your budget, what lenses do what, how each mode works. Then my fascination for drones started happening because that's just another form of photography and videography. So YouTube spiraled everything for me. And then I just started filming, but the best advice again was from one of the YouTube channels, Think Media, was start now. Because if you don't start, you're just going to be thinking about it all the time and not actually doing it. And the best way to learn is to actually do it. So I was like, okay, my first few videos are going to be terrible. I know that. But if I know that with every video I do, I'm getting better, whether it's adding B-roll, whether it's having a script, whether it's buying something new and talking about it, then you start to your analytical skills become better because you're talking about the pros and cons of a gadget or an item, and then giving your thoughts and your experiences on it. So you start learning that way. You look at other channels and you pick up, oh, I like that. I want to apply that to my video now. So you're taking something that you've learned and putting it into practice. And now slowly, my YouTube channel has grown and I have got better, going from not knowing anything at all to being certified in Canada, UK, and in Europe for drones, knowing a little bit more about photography, setting up currently in the process of uploading my listings on Etsy with my photos that I've taken in the last 2 years. So yeah, it's been a long ride. I've probably been talking for too much.
No, I think this is great because this last little bit is to really hone in on the passion that you found, right? So everything kind of contributes to that whole path, and obviously there's a lot more to go. You're just getting started on the journey, and I'm excited that you're here to help me as well on developing the content for the YouTube channel as well. But if you were to provide some Siwike, the stuff I wish I knew earlier, maybe 2 or 3 of them to young Demetrios as he was growing up with all the bad luck, all this other thing that's happened in his life, what would you provide to him as we start closing off this discussion? What Siwike would you have for young Demetrios?
Don't waste your money on alcohol and don't bother going to clubs. It's a waste of time and money. That's seriously the first thing. Don't give up. Just persevere. And don't let other people affect your thoughts. If they're negative, it's just probably because they're jealous. So just ignore it. Don't care about what people say and just carry on doing your thing. Definitely. If you don't know what to do, just get any job to make some money and save up and travel the world until you figure out what you want, and then go into that.
Right.
And then definitely become reliant on social media. I would say start a YouTube channel about what you're passionate about, so at least you can start building a side income or side business, so you're not relying on just one income stream.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of different things. I'm sure the money on alcohol and clubs will be a little bit controversial, but I'm sure it has a lot of merit because it is for those that need it. I mean, you need it, but if you think about what it gets you, well, probably
waste of time,
a bit of a hangover and an empty wallet, right? That sort of thing. Persevere, I think, is phenomenal. Obviously, everyone needs to be able to keep going because sometimes it's the learning from the falls and the not and something that doesn't knock you out. That really helps you, right? Because you progress through those challenges and hardships. And that concept about don't let others affect your thoughts and they're probably just jealous, I think that's quite appropriate, because a lot of folks see what you're doing and they want to put you down, because if you're successful, then it's like, oh, now they have to put in the work to elevate themselves because they were in the same or similar position. The part about if you don't know what to do, just do something and then figure it out, I think is appropriate, because a lot of folks, they jump into something and waste a bunch of time and, well, quote unquote, waste a bunch of time doing stuff they don't necessarily want. And that last little bit on social media. I'm not sure if it's specific on social media, but definitely multiple streams of
Yeah.
income is highly recommended for folks, because some people, obviously social media is a way to do that, but there's other ways of doing that as well. So I think lots of great advice that hopefully folks can take away. If folks want to connect with you on social or elsewhere, where can they find you, and what are some future aspirations that we can look forward to connecting with you in the future about?
Yeah, if you wish to connect me, you can find me on probably much all social media. I'm probably most active on YouTube and Instagram. So YouTube, you'll see all my stuff on drones, photography, and everything in between. Instagram, I'll share some small snippets, as well as TikTok. Those are the ones I really focus on. I'll link my Etsy store. I'll give Luki everything, my Etsy store and links that you can have.
Yeah.
There's my website too, if you want to check that out. Was there anything else? I can't remember what you just said.
Yeah, just future aspirations. What can we look forward to hearing from you? But it seems like all of those things are part of your future aspirations.
Yeah, there's more drone content coming out. I'm just in the process of filming and editing. Obviously, moving back to Canada, hopefully next month. So it's just a lot of trying to fit everything in. But there's going to be more drones and photography stuff, especially FPV, because that's the most exciting.
Sounds good. So work in progress, lots of different success stories that are underway, and looking forward to having you help out on this YouTube channel as well. So thanks so much, Demetrios, for sharing your story, and hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Luki.
Thanks for joining us on the Siwike Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.